Hi, Alessandra. Hello, Alexandra.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, Ruby. Thank you for having me here.
This is all new to me, so in case I get some technical problem, I'm sorry. But I just finished the film. It's so powerful. It took me 10 minutes to gather myself, and there are so many questions I want to ask. But the one I want to ask most right now is, how's the situation in Romania? How's the political situation and the victims?
The political situation, the country developed a lot since that incident. And when I mean the country, I mean most of all the civil society, and the society developed a lot. And people have a different relationship to the press now, and I feel that people trust the press more. And that we have more and more, also journalists and press that makes good investigations. But on the side of the victims, it has to be said that the Romanian state, if we talk about authorities and the politics, things have changed in so far that new parties have been elected into parliament. Parties of younger people that come out of private businesses that decided to go into politics in order to change things, because it was not bearable anymore how this super corrupt political class was impossible to change. But the victims, they are still waiting. The judicial system in Romania is very, very slow. And it is really, since all this happened, there was not one single verdict in any tribunal be it about the hospital authorities, be it about the club. So the judicial system has not one single verdict since 5 years in none of the corruption or incompetence cases. So the victims are still waiting.
So there are no compensation for the victims?
Not yet, because the judicial system is really non-performative, we could say, if we don't want to use other words.
Mm. So in terms of the film production, when did you decide to bring in the new minister into the narrative?
The minute I heard that a young man from outside politics is interviewed for this job as the Minister of Health, I started to try to contact him, and basically I was there from the very beginning of his mandate.
Where is he now? Is he still the ministry, or he went back to Vienna?
No, he became part, I think 2 years ago, he became part of one of these new political parties, and they had enough votes in order to make a coalition government with an old party, let's say. And right now, since Christmas, he's again the Minister of Health.
Now, everybody probably want to know about, how do you get access to the journalists, and how do you gain their trust to have you film? And also, a lot of people are willing to be filmed because they were like informers, and they have no problem with the cameras there.
No, they had. I mean, Catalin, who is with us, can also tell us a bit about why they let us film them. But the first time we understood that an observational documentary about the relationship between the power and the citizens, and most of all about an abusive power and the citizens, we understood that the best way to do this observationally would be through the eyes of investigative journalists and really follow the investigations. And so we became aware of this team at Gazeta Sporturilor because they were the first one to investigate the healthcare system when this whole manipulation went on, that they can treat the patients and so forth. The first time they did not accept our proposal to come and film, maybe if they have a investigation. But we had also our own development team and investigative team, and also showed them what we know, and we also had sources from inside the system. But I guess Katalin can say more about why the journalists trusted us in the end. But just one thing about the whistleblowers I want to say. Basically, we had an understanding. The journalists would tell us when the whistleblowers come in, they would say, this evening somebody comes, sources. You have 5 minutes to talk to them. They know that you have our trust. You can see if they let themselves film, but if they don't agree, please leave and let us do our work. So basically, we had an understanding with the whistleblowers that once we finish filming and edit the film, which can be in 1 year or 2 years from that moment on, we will rewatch the scenes with them, and at that moment in time, they can decide if they want to be in this film or not. So basically, it was our risk to edit the film and then see. But luckily, all these courageous women that you see in the film were also courageous to accept and become public once the film is out.
Great. Katalin, congratulations on your courage. It's just so gripping. And I understand you have a sport magazine or sport newspaper, and we don't normally see a sport journalist going into the investigative journalism. How that journey works for you?
Good evening first, and it's really an honor to discuss to the public to Hong Kong and Asia, the epicenter of recent democratic movements. Um, yes, this is a very well-founded question, and since 1 year I can't improvise a smart answer to this question. Because everybody asks us, okay, you are a sport journalist, what means? It's almost incongruable to be a sport journalist and in public perception, of course. So we have making investigation for more than 25 years. And day by day, we have some results, as public says. Even for us, the result don't means to put someone in jail because this is a duty of justice. It's not about our work. Yes, but for the public, this means a lot. Not only in Romania, because we have dozen and dozen of investigation in the past 3 decades, and sometimes two ministers and a lot of dozen and dozen of high officials, they went in jails after these kind of investigations, after after the process, of course, not after our investigation. uh, Romanian states recover more than 10 million dollars after our investigation. And it's not about figures. $10 million not means a lot in a European country, but it's about hope. And because that we gained the public trust. And after the fire, they came to us and tell their story, and we owe the people, yes, because the need to get involved in a democracy has no map and no limit, no time limit, and no such a narrow niche like I'm a sport journalist and uh, here is my border. And yes, the most contagious virus was fear, and this is not the motto of the collective movie. You recognize the motto. It's not a motto of the COVID movie right now. It's your motto. It's Ruby's movie, The Blood of Yangzhou. This is the pronunciation, yes, district from 2006.
Yes.
And our fear as ordinary people, as journalists, as citizens, that we can not change things, and this fear remains very strong in us. And if I may, I returning to collective, and I finish my answer here. I think that Alexander's work and talents acted here like this. An Italian newspaper wrote that he filmed in Romania, but he framed the whole world. He touched a sensitive nerve all over the world, because I think this nerve can call the nerve against fear, against our fear as citizens, to be implied and to change the things.
Thank you for quoting Blood of Yingzhou district. Yes, fear is the most contagious
Yeah,
virus.
yeah. Even now, the fear is the most contagious virus.
Well, at the end, towards the end of the film, of course, as a filmmaker, you want to have a lot of fear built towards the end. So you were being threatened by some calls, and your lives at that time were in danger. How are you still safe in Romania?
Yes, yes. The answer is yes. We stay safe because we are in European country, and we are blessed to be and to live and to work in a European country, a Union European country. Yes, we joined into European countries in 2007, and we are not, to be honest with you, we are more stressful than risky. So we are not in Russia, we are not in China, we are not in Myanmar. Yes, of course, as Alex earlier told you, the real heroes are the whistleblowers and the victims, of course. Yes, of course, we are some risks sometime, and in general, you fear from those around you. And my colleague Mirella, you saw in the movie, the female reporter, is a single mother and raised her daughters Anna um, from 4 years old to 16 years old, called her 10 times per day because she is afraid. Of course, sometimes we saw cars against us, she saw cars against Anna, but this is our job. And but the griefs and the courage for of the family of the dead children and the whistleblowers, this is the real courage.
Do you think because of, like earlier Alex said, that you have now more gained the trust of the people of Romania, and that gives you even more courage and also the confidence to do more stories?
Yes, a collective movie. It's like almost like a bonanza for investigative journalists in Romania. We spend hours and hours per day to talk with people, with sources, with whistleblowers. They came to us, and not only to our newsroom, to Gazeta Sporturilor, and also to other newsrooms, and they want to talk with us about the corruption, about the incompetence sometimes, about the lack of resources, only about the lack of organization, the management in the government.
Really, this film really is a celebration of uh, freedom of press and investigative journalists. Congratulations. I understand the film is shortlisted for Best Documentary Feature as well as represent Romania as the foreign film entry. Alex, how did it happen?
How it happened? I mean,
As
we
the the entry.
How it was shortlisted?
No, I mean that because the film is really criticizing the government, how
Yeah.
corrupted the government is, and then they picked the film for
Oh,
Romania.
that you mean? Yes,
Yes.
it is. Yeah, why it is Romania's Oscar entry? That's very simple because the Oscars, the AMPAS, the Academy has very good rules which say that the commission that selects the films in the countries has to be independent, and it was an independent commission named by the Romanian Film Center, but they were a group of film critics that voted secretly and chose this film, which did not make the government or the state institutions very happy, as we know from inside the institution that they looked for ways to reverse this decision. But it's very important that AMPAS has this rule, and it's very important that AMPAS insists on the rule that the films in the countries are elected by independent commissions, because I think that more and more films, will happen now in our countries, which the power will not be happy about, and they will try to prevent them from representing the country.
Great. So we have to take some comments from the audience. How do I?
Hello?
Yes, I saw one comment, if I may. Very interesting question, in fact. It's something like this. How do you juggle the balance of speed and accuracy in our investigative work? This is very interesting. It's from Hot Ambassador. I think it's official. Yes, and I know very well. This is a very important thing for us, and people ask us, okay, you are afraid, and our honest answer is yes, we are afraid to do mistakes. This is our main afraid, to do mistakes, because not because our reputation, no, because but because if we do mistakes, this affects the truth, the facts. And next time, maybe the people don't give you the trust, not for us, of course, but for the information. And this is very important. Then we work in this investigation, and Alex was there day by day with his own camera, only solo in the more days. So we worked for 5 months to check the documents, to check the proofs, to check the testimonials, and only after we have not only the second sources but also the confirmation to the officials, we published the first issue of our investigation.
Okay, second question. The second question.
The one with the sports publication?
Yes.
Okay. I think Katalin answered
Yeah.
this question because they were doing investigations basically long before that, since 25 years, but they did most of it in the sports world. So once they became very notorious in Romania as investigative journalists, and the fact that many people, from sports ministers to the big football bosses in Romania, had trials following the investigations and had to go to jail. The people started to trust them. And so basically, during this national tragedy after the fire, when most of the press didn't ask the uh, needed questions, let's say, during the manipulation of the government, when they said that the healthcare system is on top of things, that it's the best, it's as good as the one in Germany, and it handles the healthcare crisis great with the burn patients. It was their paper who really started the first investigations on the healthcare system. That's why they ended up doing it.
Yes, and sometimes you need an outsider to put the plain and simple question for a sensible domain like a health system. And we are trained as sport journalists not to please the public because we are in the middle of the huge passion of the sports fan, and everybody understands this. Yes, and if you are in the middle of the passion of the sports fan, you don't care if government is upset to you, or in big pharma companies, or the public. Sometimes the public are very angry with us in some situation, because I think this is the main risk for our profession, for journalists all over the world, to please the public. But as sport journalist, you are trained not to please the public and only to seeking for facts.
Questions from the ambassador. Youth are often disillusioned with politics, especially in this age of palatable truth. What is the line you draw between corresponding facts and emotional appeal?
I think this is also a question for Alex, because he balanced the emotion and the information in the movie, and set up this magical for me, because we wrote more than 200 investigation in 1 year, and he put, of course he don't put together, but he saw something in the reality, and give to the public.
Yeah, I mean the youths are often disillusioned with politics for sure. I think that is something that goes for most countries, even for the old democracies. But I feel that things are changing a bit. I mean, after we had this massive movement towards populists in 2016, also in Romania, for example, as you could see in the film, people did not go to vote, young people. Now in the pandemic, we had general elections and even local elections for the town halls and so forth. And because of the pandemic, because many people were maybe afraid to go and vote, we also did not have a very high turnout of the percentage of people going to vote. But what really happened is that many young people went this time to vote. So basically, it's turned a bit around. So this top voters that were old people became now young people. And also now, after we launched the film and traveled with it, and we get, first of all, the audience of the film, for example, in Romania, where it was seen by many people, is a very young audience. There is a very young generation now, maybe between 16 and 25, that is really interested in which direction the country goes into. The ones that are not 18 are waiting to be able to vote. So my personal feeling is that things start to change insofar that a young generation gets more and more interested in politics. And I think also the crisis we all went through with, and you know it very well also in Hong Kong, how young people became more interested in politics because of the problems. And that happened worldwide. Because of the catastrophe we were facing in so many countries with the politicians, with the populists, that started to dismantle basically the democracies and dismantle the state institutions, people started, and young people most of all, started to be interested how politics works, how democracy really works through its state institutions. And I think we assist now in a movement of more people being interested in politics. You see also the Friday for Future movement.
Yes, if I may, because no country, no matter how advanced is exempt from the risk of corruption. In Germany, a few days ago, a lawmaker was indicted by prosecutors for receiving more than, I think, more than almost $700,000 for a medical mask contract in Germany, which is of course, of one of most and developed in not only in wealth, in money, but also in democratic institutions.
And he
And
was
young
part of
people
the,
feel this.
yeah, and this corrupt politician, or we don't know yet, but he was
Yeah.
accused, uh, is part of Angela Merkel's party.
And the Bundestag votes in 5 minutes to permit the prosecutors to follow the indictment.
Yeah, we have a question from a filmmaking perspective. There's clearly so much information and tension to be conveyed, yet the audience never feel overwhelmed and always feel the film flows. How do you accomplish that?
Yeah, it is, it is a work of which we have done in the editing room, basically to understand not only on an informational level what this investigation is about and what we have to understand on a very basic level, leaving out two local details, let's say. I think one of the important things is in the editing room to always have the audience in mind and never have only the local audience in mind, but have an international audience in mind that really has to understand such a complex informational reality, but also the fact that we follow so many characters. It was important to understand what is basically the core that unites most of the characters or all characters. And for me, this core that unites all of them and makes the viewer, flow with the film, as you call it, is that for me, the characters all have one challenge, to ask themselves and to answer a simple question: who am I? Why do I do my profession? And who do I want to be? And so basically, it's a question of identity that cinema asks, I think, best, and it's always a relationship. This is for me the relation between the viewer and cinema. It's a question of identification. How do I identify with the person on the screen? And how do I want to be when I see other persons, people, how they are? And these are all characters, from the journalist to the young minister to the Teddy, the burnt girl. She always also says, I know who I am. I may look different. I may be burnt now, but I know who I am. I won't let myself poison by the evil that other people did to me. And I think that basically unites everything.
Okay, we probably do a couple more questions and then we do turn into Zoom to talk with the audience here. So there's questions about how do you work with the MOH, especially when a radical story is going to be run? Do they get forewarning as professional courtesy?
Yeah, for us as journalists, it's very simple. We have the rule in the democracy, and they, as officials, have the rules, and we have a polite but a distance relationship. Right now, the Vlad is the Minister of Health in Romania, but we are not friends. We keep the distance because the public expect from us the balance facts, not the friendship situation. And no, we are stay cool.
That's good. There's a question about
No, sorry, but I think it's also a question for Alex, this, because this is the magical of the movie to keep the relation between the director and the Ministry of Health. For Romania, which is a ex-communist country, the secrets and the lack of transparency, it's in our DNA. And he try and obtain this incredible access to the Ministry of Health.
Yes, but because it was a very forward-thinking young minister that had a, which is maybe even more important, that had a very young and very professional, forward-thinking team around him that he gathered. And he was encouraged, and I know that, by his team to give me that access. And I think that's an important thing always, if you, to surround yourself with the right people that when you fight so big powers like, him from inside the system, to surround yourself with people that will, encourage you and help you to have the courage basically to fight.
He is so comfortable in front of the camera. It's incredible. I mean, did you have to cultivate a lot of time, or have coffee, or with him?
No, I
No.
never have coffee with the people. Katalin wants to say something.
Yeah. The answer is no. We don't drink a beer together in 1.5 years. Why? And I asked him why, not about beer, of course, but why we don't talk. We talk, I think, 2 hours in 1.5 years together. We as team and with Alex and his team, and we asked him why, and he explained to me, because I want, he says, all your energy or all your ideas only in the movie, and I don't pass the border. This was the reality, and I want the reality like this. We don't have any interrupted moment in any pause in our work to talk with him or with the team.
Great, very professional. So the next question would be: tell us more about the burn, the woman with the burn victim, and how is she doing today?
Teddy's doing well. I mean, she's an architect. She works, I guess, in different projects and also with NGOs that help other people. But as you can see in the film, she continues to be a voice. People know her. And yeah, I mean, for me as a filmmaker and as a storyteller, she was an enigma for me, because I, as a human being, basically thought, like most people, I think when somebody does something like that to us, kills our friends basically, and mutilates us, and so forth, our first reaction is for revenge. Our first reaction is to I don't know, to maybe destroy also the people that did that to you, or kill your friends, or see them in jail, right? But Teddy is somebody that, as you see also the film says, the only way is to stand up and walk on. And I think that is a very strong life attitude, to know who the evil people are, but also to know who you are, and more important, to not let yourself in a way transform in something evil like these other people, because you want revenge, you want, to stay so strong and to know who you are even after others did that to you. That's phenomenal, and I think we can all learn from that and should learn from them.
For me, she gives hope to a lot of people, and she represents healing, to heal the wounds of the burns. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that you put her in intimate, like in sections between stories. So that's good. So I think we have time for one question, and then we move to our own private Zoom conversation. So, Alex, would you pick the last question?
With the popularity, the one.
Yes, please.
So, with the popularity of this documentary and the increased reputation of the newspaper, how have the both of you been leveraging this opportunity? I mean, I think for me as a filmmaker, the most important thing is that this story gets distributed so wide, and since we understand how much it really communicates with so many people around the world and how much they identify their own society systems and also their own private lives basically inside a society, I don't know, we can just, I must admit, I can just watch it and be very happy about it for sure. And it's not something that you can influence from the very beginning. You don't, every storyteller wants many people to see stories. But at a certain point, you realize that when a story connects so much really with the whole world suddenly, it's almost not your what you did. It's just it has its own life suddenly.
Yes, and for me and for us as team, because we are working always as team, um, there is a risk because a big food journalist, it's very hard to talk with anybody, and we have to go in a shadow in a parks to talk to the people right now. But it's okay. But it's also, to be honest, with the audience, a very big, a very great joy, a huge joy. Why? I think there is something very interesting in Alexander's films, the reaction of the people. I saw the same reaction in Norway, in Switzerland, in Canada. Uh, but something related to our resemblance, to be alike as societies, makes for me the collective extremely close in Mongolia, in Hong Kong, in Hungary, in Slovakia. Why? Because when you see as audience, as citizen, as public spotlight, to give only one example, you say, yes, wow, this is great. It's amazing what the journalists there do. But so advanced world, so bright, they have so great sources. But when you see collective, you think, okay, it's like in my country. It's like in Ulaanbaatar or in Hong Kong or in Prague, yes? They are not a great editorial staff. We are not a huge newsroom. They are not, in Romania, we are not a consolidated democracy. But look what they are, what they do as citizen and as journalists. And I think this proximity is very important for the idea of the collective documentary.
Great.
Yes, I think that the fact that so many people around the world see this example, that because of the courage of one woman, of one whistleblower, the doctor, the first source basically for the journalists, really a whole avalanche of investigations start and a whole society changes and so many lives basically are rescued. This is a lot, and it shows that, if citizens and the press trust each other, and the press is professional, you can really change things, because power basically is nothing without the people. So if the people, every single one of us basically, is courageous to stand up to our values, it is impossible for power to survive that if they are abusive.
And if you say almost the same messages from Greece, from Europe, yes, from south of Europe, and from Indonesia, from yeah, you feel so emotion because it's almost the same reaction, and they
Yeah.
have the same hope. But
Yes.
I think you know very well, Roby, this kind of thing, because this is the magic of cinema and of your art.
I think trust is most important, and transparency of the government very important with the press to the fourth force of the society, and I hope that more courageous journalists will be inspired by your film. And so let's wrap this part up and move on to our next Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to
Thank you.
everybody who watched.
Thank you.